There's a reason the best moment in any game is the first day you start. It feels new and exciting, but most importantly, it feels meaningful. So why do we love starting over more than reaching the end? Think back to the moment you were most excited to play a game. It probably wasn't even the game itself. You were excited before you ever touched it. That anticipation hits harder than anything inside the game. It's the same feeling you had as a kid on Christmas Eve. You couldn't sleep, not because of what you had, but because of what was coming next. And that feeling never really goes away. We just transfer it to new things. New games, new wipes, new systems, new communities, hyping up the next big moment. Even if you don't notice it happening, the energy of everyone getting excited pulls you in. Suddenly you're watching trailers, reading comments, and imagining the fresh start you're about to jump into. Game developers understand this feeling of anticipation better than anyone, and they try to harness it every chance they get. Not just before a game launches, but after it's out in the world. Before a release, there are trailers, teasers, developer updates, conventions. That's the whole purpose of events like Gamescom, to gather a community, build hype, and let players imagine the game before they ever touch it. But the more interesting part comes after a game's launch, because for most titles, there's a huge spike of excitement on day one, and then it slowly fades. Great games don't let that happen. They find ways to renew that initial spark, to recreate that Christmas Eve anticipation long after launch. One of the clearest examples of this is Escape from Tarkov. Even if you don't play Tarkov, you've probably noticed how it randomly shoots to the top of Twitch every few months. It's not an accident. Tarkov resets itself through wipes, creating these massive waves of excitement over and over again. A wipe is when the game deletes almost all of your progress and forces you to start from zero. On paper, that sounds awful, losing everything you worked for. But in practice, it's the most exciting part of the game. Wipe Day feels like getting a brand new Tarkov, even though the core systems haven't changed. It's a fresh start, a clean slate, and a chance to chase that feeling you had your first time loading up the game. Tarkov even allows for more optional resets throughout the wipe. For those of us who can't resist the thrill of starting over, we don't even have to wait for the universal reset. Tarkov lets players choose that feeling on their own terms. This comes in the form of prestige, an optional reset available once a player has reached a certain level of progress. The rewards you earn from prestige are secondary, but they still matter. They need to be meaningful, unique, and exclusive to players who reach that level of progression. The best rewards are the ones you can show off. Tarkov handles this well with its prestige exclusive clothing sets and dog tags that instantly signal accomplishment to other players. Visual, recognizable rewards tap directly into our desire for status. They don't just motivate us to prestige, they let us display our achievements to the entire community. It's a clever system because it keeps the grind alive for those who crave continuous advancement, while still rewarding the dedication required to reach prestige in the first place. At the same time, it provides long-term goals for players who prefer stability. They can simply aim to reach prestige before the end of the wipe, claim their unique rewards, and avoid doing any extra resets. In this way, Tarkov manages to satisfy both people who love resets and those who think once is plenty. While Tarkov uses wipes and prestige to reignite excitement, other games rely on a different but equally effective system: ranked resets. Instead of wiping all progress, these games refresh competitive ladders on a regular schedule, creating waves of anticipation as players prepare to reclaim or surpass their previous standing. This structured cycle taps into the same psychological itch for renewal, but channels it through competition rather than progressional resets. You're probably familiar with games that reset their ranked ladders. A clear example is League of Legends. The same idea shows up in almost every competitive title with a ranking system. Players climb as high as they can, but if that rank never resets, the entire system will get stale, especially for anyone stuck at a plateau. League solves this by wiping the ranked ladder every split, about every 4 months. Similar to Tarkov's prestige rewards, ranked games also offer incentives for reaching certain milestones. In League of Legends, these come in the form of ranked skins, chromas, and at the very top, a special recall animation. These rewards don't just mark achievement, they broadcast it. They let players stand out, signal their skill, and show the community exactly what they've earned. Riot Games also has cinematics and dev updates released throughout the year. These add to the hype and get people excited for what they can expect from the new split. You can already see the similarity to Tarkov. Both games use resets to reignite excitement, but they approach it differently. Tarkov wipes your entire progress, gear, levels, hideout. League doesn't touch your unlockable content, because those aren't the point of the progression. Instead, League resets what matters to its competitive ecosystem, your rank. Every new split becomes a fresh challenge, a new shot at breaking your old peak, and a reason for returning players to jump back in. The emotional spark is the same one Tarkov players feel on Wipe Day, a mixture of hope and excitement, and the belief that this time, I'll do better. And League is far from the only example. Many of the most successful competitive games use seasonal ranked resets for the exact same reason. These systems tap into a universal part of gaming psychology, the thrill of chasing a clean slate. Once you understand this pattern, you start to notice that some of the most engaging games aren't the ones that keep you progressing forever. They're the ones that let you start over, again and again, each time with a renewed purpose. At first glance, it might seem strange that players would willingly put themselves through resets, losing progress, starting from zero, climbing the same mountains again. On paper, it sounds frustrating, but the truth is that resets taps into some of the strongest psychological motivators in gaming. Humans thrive on fresh starts. We crave the feeling of possibility, the idea that anything can happen, and that this time we might achieve something greater than before. Whether it's Tarkov wiping our stash clean, the optional prestige to start a new journey, or League of Legends restarting our rank at the beginning of every split. All these systems leverage the same emotional trigger. The reset button gives us permission to chase a new version of ourselves. Resets create a moment where the playing field levels out, and everyone, no matter how skilled or experienced, begins again from the same point. This creates anticipation, excitement, and a sense of community momentum. You're not just starting over, you're starting over together. There's also the powerful pull of measurable progress. When everything resets, every tiny achievement feels meaningful again. Every piece of gear you pick up is important. It either increases your chance of winning a fight through new guns, armor, or attachments, or will be needed for quests in the future. Everything becomes exciting to loot, because you need everything. This excitement simply isn't possible without resets, because once you get a few months in, you can simply buy everything. The early game tasks are another huge form of progress that is easily visible early on. Most early game tasks are easy to complete and can be done within a couple of raids. This simply isn't the case when you get farther along. The tasks become extremely difficult and can be frustrating for many players. These tasks slow down, and you might only complete 1/10 of a task each raid. While you still are making progress, it's much harder for our brains to actually feel that progress. This is because you don't get rewarded nearly as often. Some of this psychology shows up in ranked games too. The first few wins of a new split give you the biggest gains. You climb quickly, sometimes faster than your actual improvement. It's almost like the game is tricking our brains into feeling rapid progress, even when our skill hasn't changed. And while the early momentum feels great, it can lead to problems. Many players in the League community never truly improve. Instead, they chase that illusion of growth. They make new accounts, smurf, and cycle through the same ranks over and over just to feel that early spike of progress. At that point, the goal isn't becoming a better player, it's chasing the dopamine hit that comes from watching their rank shoot up. The progress might be false, but the feeling isn't, and that's what keeps players coming back. The best games are built around a carefully shaped progression curve, a curve designed to hook you early, then challenge you more and more as you improve. At the start, progress comes fast. Levels fly by, challenges feel manageable, and it seems like the game is constantly rewarding you. But as you play longer, that curve naturally tapers off. The rewards slow down, the requirements get larger, and improvement takes far more effort. In Escape from Tarkov, this is easy to see. Hitting early levels takes almost no time at all. You can jump from level 1 to level 10 in just a handful of raids. But the farther you go, the more XP each level demands, eventually turning every level up into a slow, grindy milestone. Tasks follow the same pattern. Early tasks are straightforward. Pick up this item, visit a location, but as you move deeper into the task tree, the requirements spike. You might have to kill 20 players with a specific gun. The game eases you in, then gradually ramps up the challenge as your knowledge and skills grow. For ranked-based games like League of Legends, the progression curve isn't tied to XP or quest, it's tied to the opponents you face. When you start in Bronze or Iron, the average player has limited knowledge. Learning just a few fundamental concepts, like good positioning, proper item builds, better map awareness, can leap you through entire divisions. Improvement feels fast and meaningful. But once you reach higher ranks, the curve steepens dramatically. Players understand the game intimately, and every mistake is punished. At that point, climbing no longer comes from learning broad concepts. It comes from mastering tiny details. Wave timing, matchup knowledge, animation cancels, micro optimizations that barely matter to anyone except the people at the top. Your progress slows because the game demands far more from you for every inch you climb. One of the clearest ways to understand this kind of progression curve is through idle games. Take Adventure Capitalist, one of the most famous idle games. It's a simple loop: make money, spend money to make more money, and repeat. Because the entire game is driven by math, the curve becomes extremely easy to visualize. In the early game, your income skyrockets compared to the cost of upgrades. Each new purchase pays for itself quickly, letting you chain upgrade after upgrade without waiting. Your progression feels explosive, almost out of control, and that sensation is the hook. But beneath the surface, the math slowly shifts. As you climb higher, the cost of each upgrade begins to outpace your income. The curve flattens. What used to take seconds now takes minutes, then hours. Eventually you hit a point where meaningful progress nearly stops. Unless the game gives you a reset mechanic, usually called prestige. Prestige jumps you back to the start, but with bonuses that make your next run dramatically faster. Suddenly, that explosive early game progression returns, and the cycle starts all over again. This is what all great progression systems share: fast, rewarding growth at the start, then a slow tightening as you push towards mastery. And this natural curve is also what makes resets feel so good. Resets let you experience that fast early game momentum again, the part of the curve that feels the most rewarding. We love rate of progress far more than the total amount we have accomplished. Every small achievement, a task completed, a new level reached, a rank promotion, gives a little dopamine hit. But those hits aren't directly tied to how big the task is. In fact, for most players, the late game grind feels the least rewarding. That's one of the core reasons why so many Tarkov players drop off after a few months into a wipe. The task becomes slower and more punishing, and the dopamine curve flattens out. There's a reason only a tiny fraction of people ever become the best at anything. Most people, in games and in life, hit the slow part of the progression curve and fall off long before mastery. The frustration grows, the visible progress disappears, and it feels like you're pouring hours into something without getting better. It takes a different kind of person to push through that wall. Someone willing to improve, even when the gains are too small to notice. But the reassuring part is this: greatness isn't reserved for some chosen few. Everyone has the potential to become incredible at the things they care about. The more you step into discomfort, the better you can handle it. The more you push through moments when everyone else quits, the more likely you are to reach levels you never thought you could. Ideally, Games would feel exciting at all stages, but that's just not how human psychology works. We struggle with frustration, we get bored when progression slows, and we crave that feeling of momentum. And that's exactly why resets, wipes, rank splits, prestiges exist. They act like a progression refresh, returning us to the part of the curve where our brains are the happiest. What's interesting is that the resets don't just refresh progression, they refresh identity. Each new wipe in Tarkov gives players the chance to reinvent themselves. Resets allow you to push for new goals. You get another chance to get a higher survival rate, or KD, without the burden of your past mistakes. You can learn from the last wipe and hopefully reach your goals faster and more efficiently than before. And in ranked games, it's the exact same effect. A brand new split lets you shake off last season's mistakes and try again with a clean slate. You can try and reach your past peak with a higher win rate, or try new champions and lanes without the fear of ruining what you already have. Resets give players hope and forgiveness, and those two things are powerful motivators. There's also a massive social component to all of this. When an entire community resets at the same time, a unique kind of momentum forms. Everyone is on equal footing, everyone is learning at the same pace, and everyone is sharing discoveries in real time. This creates a rare feeling of collective adventure, something you almost never experience. Resets create a synchronized wave of excitement that carries entire communities. People watch more streams, talk more in Discord, play with friends who haven't logged on in months, and share the same feeling of starting over. The community energy is a big part of what keeps these games thriving. Games are always more fun when you're not playing them alone. Even if you never group up in-game, simply being connected to others, watching a stream, chatting in Discord, or comparing progress amplifies the experience. For a short window, you and your favorite streamer are discovering the same things together. That shared excitement is powerful, and even after they pull ahead, their progress gives you something to learn from. New routes, new strategies, new metas. Being part of a community makes every reset feel bigger than your own journey. But resets also have a downside. They can trap players in a cycle of chasing the feeling, instead of actually enjoying the game. Some Tarkov players never push past level 25, because the early game is all they enjoy. Some League players never climb, because they create a new account every time the momentum slows. Resets can be a soothing escape from the discomfort of improvement. Progress slows, frustrations rise, and instead of pushing through, people hit the reset button for the quick hit of dopamine. And that's important to recognize, because even though resets are fun, they're not a substitute for genuine long-term growth. You should want to become better and push through frustration, because that is when we learn the most. At the heart of all reset-based progression is a simple truth. Humans are wired to love momentum. Early progress feels good because it's fast, visible, and immediate. Late progression feels bad because it's slow, invisible, and uncertain. Resets let us relive the best part over and over again without the boredom or frustration of the late game. They give us fast dopamine, a clean slate, renewed identity, community excitement, and give developers an easy way to re-energize stagnant players. It's a perfect psychological loop. At the end of the day, our love of resets isn't just about games. It reflects something deeper. We love moments where we get to reinvent ourselves. We love fresh starts, new challenges, early momentum, and the feeling of possibilities. Resets gives us a taste of what life rarely does. The ability to begin again, without the weight of our past mistakes. Whether it's Tarkov's wiping or League resetting ranks, it taps into the same fundamental desire. To feel progress, to feel hope, and to feel like we're moving towards something. Because sometimes, the most exciting part of any journey is the moment you start.